Hi, how are you? I am just warning you, I have a pen. Oh, wait, hold on. Here it is. And a phone. So I am well armed to be a dictator because apparently that's all it takes. It's just hard to point out who's the bigger bully between the president and the governor of New Jersey. But 2 years before Obama took the highest office, he seemed like a level-headed guy. Seems so cool. The powerful ether that permeates the Oval Office turns the humblest of men into brutes. And Christie already has a pretty darn good start in that direction, at least according to his critics. I wish the president would executively order himself to go back in time and be straight with his staff, his cabinet, and the American people on Benghazi. I wish a lot of things. I wish I never heard the name Kelly Thomas. I'm just glad that you're here, baby. It's the independence. Hey there, I'm Kennedy, along with Reason Magazine editor-in-chief. His name is Matt Welch. Camille Foster from Free Think Media. Together, the three of us are the independents. We're tired of the malarkey, the nonsense, and the rubbish. We demand better, and we're going to get it by gum. Well, let's get right to the party panel, shall we? Very good. Bernard Whitman is a piece of human cotton candy. He's soft, pretty, and liberal, just like I like him. And Bill Spadea is a New Jersey Republican and host of a TV show called Chasing New Jersey. I don't know if he's caught anything yet. You gotta ask Snooki, I guess. All right, have phone, have pen. We'll dictate. What the hell is wrong with the president? Today, he said this.
I've got a pen and I've got a phone. And I can use that pen to sign executive orders and take executive actions and administrative actions that move the ball forward.
I've got a handful of pens and I've got two phones. One up, Broseph. What the hell is wrong with the president? Did he lose his mind? I have a whole opinion, by the way, so ask me later.
Yeah, the same thing that was wrong with the previous president and kind of the one before him. The thing that's remarkable to me, and maybe our Democratic friend can help us out a little bit, back in 2007 and 8, the bookstores were filled with books like The Imperial Presidency, right? This was an unprecedented Bush-Cheney kind of power grab. And it was, actually. Charlie Savage wrote a great book about it. This was an entire kind of rationale for the original Obama presidency was to be against overweening executive power and executive authority. There's a great Q&A with him that Charlie Savage did for the Boston Globe in December 2007. And it's just filled with stuff like, well, warrantless surveillance of American citizens in defiance of FISA is unlawful and unconstitutional.
Wait, who said this again?
Senator Barack Obama.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how far he's gone from that. This is executive orders. This isn't necessarily signing statements.
Is he burning down the Reichstag?
He's not burning down the Reichstag. He's just acting like a president. But that is disappointing, especially considering how he ran for president.
All right, Camille. Hi.
Yeah, well, this is super interesting. I mean, the left hasn't completely disappeared on this issue, but any passion and fire that they had before when it was the other guy has seemingly disappeared. I have to admit that I am constantly surprised by the president, and I shouldn't be, but I'm constantly surprised by the ways in which he can totally contradict himself. I should stop doing that. This isn't quite surprising. Like, all of these folks apparently have a tremendous capacity for dishonesty and hypocrisy.
I will tell you this, politics zaps greed, it zaps morals, it creates greed. And it's sad, Bernard.
Well, when you don't
Why do they lose their ideals?
But when you don't have a partner in government, when you don't have someone in the Speaker of the House that can control his caucus, that can actually deliver legislation that the president can sign, you have to still go to work every day for the American people, and that's what the president has done. He said, you know what? If you don't give me legislation that I can actually sign, I'm going to go and do the job that I was elected to do and put the American people back to work. Look, here are the facts.
You would be, okay, by the way, Bernard, my new friend, welcome to the Independence, by the way. You would be having kittens if a Republican president did this. I know you would.
George W. Bush did the same thing.
In 2 years, you're going to come back and you would not, a Republican president, you would not be giving me the same malarkey talking point.
Here are the facts. The facts are the economy is expanding, went up 4.1% in Q3, but we're not adding enough jobs. 74,000 jobs is paltry. And what the president said to his cabinet is, we need to put America back to work. We need to grow the economy. And if the Republicans in the House cannot get their act together and work with the Democrats, then he's going to do something about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
They're all as useful as teats on a boar.
Well, it's
Hi,
a nice
how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing great. It's a nice narrative that they're trying to portray. I think the problem is that the president did have the House and the Senate when he got there. He had his guys. He got his legislation. It was called Obamacare, and the American people threw the bums out. And I think that's the problem. So now he's changing the narrative and saying, okay, I've got these guys on Capitol Hill that have, by almost every poll that you see, a low teens approval rating. He's saying, well, I've got the perfect boogeyman. Let me go make them the enemy. And it's not working. Look at his approval ratings.
Two things here, Bill. Number one, he knows he's going to lose big in the midterm elections. He knows it. And this is a concession by saying, I have a phone, I have a pen. I don't care what you do at the polling place. This is what I'm going to do. And that's bad news bears. Second, if you're asking Dr. Kennedy, and thank you very much for asking, the president is clearly depressed. He is detached from the job. He is upset, apparently, according to the National Enquirer. The newspaper. Yes.
Michelle's leaving him?
At the state of his marriage, yes.
I heard that.
And who knows if that's true, but he clearly is exhibiting the signs of someone who is so distracted and despondent and depressed. I think he needs antidepressants.
Because he's showing up to work and is challenging the Congress.
He is not showing up to work mentally.
Look,
physically he is.
If this riles up the Republicans to actually do something like pass immigration reform, which will be a huge boon to the economy, so much the better.
Do you at least, though, have a problem with the hypocritical nature of what's happening here? The notion that there is a legislative and an executive and a judiciary branch. But before you get ready to sort of give me a standard talking point, we can at least admit that this is not what we would like to see happen, right? If this was someone else, you have a problem with it.
The problem with Barack Obama is that he does not spend enough time with members of his own party and the other party. The problem with DC is the polarization. No, it's not depressed. It's because he is a little bit detached. He's a little bit aloof. And if he had spent more time in the first few years of actually developing relationships with the other party, then we'd be in a better spot.
If you look at the symptomology for people who are prescribed Lexapro, all right, embattled New Jersey Governor Christie gave his State of the State address today, briefly apologizing again for the bridge fiasco that he may or may not have known about, but he totally knew. All right, Bill, you were there. What did we hear from the big guy?
So here's this guy who is arguably a rock star within the Republican Party, at least up to last Friday when all these emails came out. And when he walked out of his office and he walked to the Assembly chamber to deliver the speech, all the oxygen went out of the room. It was unbelievably quiet.
Are you being sizist right now?
It was unbelievable.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm not. No, this is not a fat joke. Okay. He walked through, and literally everyone was quiet, almost just afraid. Nobody asked him a question, and he walked in, beeline for it, and made just one or two comments about the fact that there may have been a little bit of a controversy this week, but he took responsibility. He said, I'm the governor, and good and bad. I made a decision. I held people accountable. Yep. I mean, the contrast to Obama is this guy made a decision. He learned about it, fired people, moving on.
What could the Obama administration have done differently on Benghazi? You know what? Table that. We're going to talk about that a little later on because, you know what, I think that deserves a fuller discussion.
Here's one idea, just the concept, and I have a lot of problems with how Christie dealt with this scandal. I think he was late coming to it, and only when these emails were rubbed into his nose, he had to respond.
But that's only if you believe he didn't know.
That was a preamble. No, even if you didn't know, because it was in the news. But he fired 4 people. When have we fired anybody in the Obama administration?
Why are we comparing President Obama to Chris Christie? This is a classic.
Because Chris Christie could be the next president. That's why, Bernard.
This is Chris Christie playing Tony Soprano as if he were governor of New Jersey. The problem with the Christie administration is he created a culture in which bullying, intimidation runs rampant. He chases after people on the boardwalk.
That is so different than the Obama administration.
No, that's absolutely true. Obama does not chase people down, line item veto things, and cut programs from education institutions when he doesn't agree with the person, take police protection away, petty, ridiculous, partisan things, and acting basically like a huge bully.
He shouldn't have fired these guys?
No, he absolutely should have.
Of course he should have.
He never should have created a culture in which that his main advisors thought it was okay to publicly intimidate a Democrat for not endorsing him.
So do you blame the president then for what's going on at the NSA and the IRS? I mean, the targeting of conservative groups.
You know what?
Okay. That was fully investigated. Right? That was fully investigated. And even the person who actually started labeling the groups said, you know what? I never got pressure from the White House, and I'm a Republican to begin with.
Who got fired?
That's what the facts are.
Who was held accountable? Who got fired?
Well, we are going to find out who got fired and who's on first, because that's what we do here. Benghazi, we're going to get to it. It's a pesky little story that just won't go away. We obviously haven't heard the last of it, but did they unearth a smoking gun? Also a little later, that Justin Bieber might be in deep yogurt this time. It's drugs at his house. Biebs, eat a bag of Dickens. This is The Independent. Welcome to it. You have stumbled upon something delightful. Now go tell the others. Some documents on Benghazi were declassified as Fox News' James Rosen unearthed some top-secret congressional testimony that could be pretty damning to the president. Within minutes about hearing of the attack, military and Pentagon officials were briefed all the way up to Leon Panetta and the president. In those important, deadly moments, no one talked about a video protest. They spoke plainly of terrorism. So why is this narrative so misleading? I'll let you go first, Bill.
My question is, why did no one say anything? I mean, what I don't understand is that all these top-level folks came in and briefed the president. They knew exactly what happened, yet on one hand, they let their spokespeople go out on all the shows and say, nope, it was a video, we've offended someone. Even the president's own first reaction was an apology and a discussion about how we're sensitive to all religions, which was completely off the track. So my question is, A, why did no one in the administration come forward and say anything? And B, what was the president thinking? Because I think you could put that as, did he lie about it? What did he know? When did he know it? And we now know.
Actually, the great thing is I can answer Bill's question because the fact of the matter is the president did, on 2 occasions, call it an act of terror. If you go back and you look, the president came out very clearly and said it was an act of terror. So, in fact, the president did call it a terrorist act. There is no news.
I mean,
wait a minute, that's not true. Wait, he used the word terror attack,
that's the wrong
but he
argument.
tied it to a video.
Yeah,
he was talking about that was completely off base.
But that's,
And
okay,
there's
but why would
never been an attack, an evaluation, evolution of the facts on the ground. Yes, that happens all the time.
But this, the point
But
is
here's
that
the difference.
they knew about it. They knew about it in this scheduled briefing that was going to happen that day. They knew the embassy was under attack. They knew the ambassador had gone missing. They knew it.
And you have long-term, decades long-term, uniform and civilian military officials and analysts who knew right away what that was. Because when you have that amount of training and when you have access to that kind of intel and you use your intuition and your brain, you are pretty quickly informed of what that is. And there was a group consensus. I want to know the timeline as to when the idea of the video poked its way in. And I truly think it's so the president could stand up at the State of the Union and be like, yep, there's been no terrorism on my watch. There's a big difference between something that is terrifying and something that might have elements of terror and terrorism.
I do wonder if we're talking about the appropriate thing when we keep getting caught up on whether or not he said terrorism, whether or not he called it an act of terror. What is plainly obvious at this point is that the administration had an opportunity to say, you know what, we don't quite know what happened. We're looking into this. That would have been the responsible thing to do. What the administration did, however, was deliberately go out and sell a story that they knew at the time. It's demonstrably obvious, but that they knew at the time was incomplete at the very least, and sold it as definitive. And they locked someone up for making a video.
I think a lot of the dispute over this is actually people trying to seem like there's more of a difference than what there was at the time, right? People knew from the beginning that this looked like a semi-organized terrorist attack. They also knew that a lot of people were talking about this video or using it as an excuse on September 11th all around the Muslim world, right? They knew both of those things. We can all say they knew both of those things. The problem is in the definitiveness of the statements of this only happened because of this. This was not in response to U.S. policy, as James Carney definitively said on September 16th. This is only in response to a video. That is a problem because it throws free speech under the bus.
But a year and a half later, what's definitive is the Republicans and the far right are using this as an opportunity to delay nominations and create a whole firestorm around the president and around Hillary Clinton to gain political points. That's what's clear.
By the way,
Four
here's
people
okay,
died.
Hold on.
That's what's clear. But to use this a year and a half later about semantics is absurd.
Okay, no, let's shut your pie hole for just a second, because I'm going to make a point. All right? When you sit in this chair, then you can make all the mud 11 points you want.
Sense.
All right, let me tell you something about Hillary Clinton. Susan Rice claims she went on national TV to every Sunday morning talk show and lied because Hillary was tired. If you're so tired after a crisis, you can't be president. I'm sorry, you just can't.
I don't think that is actually
That's
the case.
what Susan Rice said that the secretary was exhausted, and she didn't blame her because it was an emotionally trying week. If it's that emotionally trying, you can't be president.
And look, about to your point of Republicans, I'm not a Republican, he's not a Republican. The show's not called The Republicans, right?
Just act like them.
No, seriously,
I'm actually interested in trying to figure out what happened and also to try to craft good policies and not overreact or blame some stupid video by some nutbag in Cerritos for something that he didn't do. I mean, that's getting the notion of incitement wrong. And looking into that is not by definition definition of partisan activity. Of course, partisans use it, but that doesn't mean that people who talk about it are themselves partisans or being opportunistic.
It also doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, this is now documented that this happened. This news was brought to the president almost immediately. So I would question, you know, as a liberal, I think you'd want to ask that question. You know, why isn't it true that everything we've seen with the trending in this administration, with the NSA, the IRS, and Benghazi, that they are using the power of government to enhance their own power for political purposes?
And you know what? I don't. By the way, for what it's worth, I don't want Christie to be president either. Because, by the way, I think he's already a bully, and once he gets in the office, that's what I was saying about huffing the fumes. We're screwed. If those are our choices, we're screwed.
Well,
no wonder so many people are independents. I hope we have more
Governor
choices.
Walker.
I really do. Walker,
Record
Texas
high.
Ranger.
40-odd%.
Walker.
40-odd%.
Your fellow Bernard.
40-odd%
Right.
and 25% identifies Republican.
Unless you can fill up your uterus with 8 babies, I have to bid you both farewell. But I
9.
hope you come back.
9 babies.
Really? Well done. Name that baby. Octomom or Teen Mom, it's automatic birth control. Some delightful stats on teen pregnancy. And the world's most famous uterus might be going to jail. It's The Independents.
And take it slowly. Ready or not, here I come. You can't hide.
If all the hippies cut off all their hair, I don't care.
Break it down, Jimmy. Welcome to The Independent. I knew from the moment I heard about 8 poor souls emerging from her crowded womb that Nadia Suleman was going to game the system and we'd forever be on the hook for her brood. And I was right. She's being charged with welfare fraud. Oh, God, this woman. All right, in other great news, teenage girls aren't dumb. And when they see their peers getting all pregnant on the TV, a wonderful thing happens. They don't get pregnant. Critics were worried the MTV show 16 When Pregnant would glorify knocked-up adolescents, but they were wrong. What does this say about the state of Octomom, birth control, and reproduction in America?
Or academia, that there's a new study that proves that 16 and pregnant has reduced teen pregnancy.
It's an interesting
They've
metric.
isolated all the variables. It's this one TV show and pregnancy.
Well, the National Bureau of Economic Research looked at Nielsen ratings, they looked at Google Trends, and they looked at that time-tested scientific barometer, Twitter.
Yeah.
And they found that in the 18 months after the debut of 16 and Pregnant, there was a 29% decline in teen pregnancy, which is, let's be honest, we don't live in Egypt in the year 500 BC.
But I
it's pretty
think,
good.
Well, they indicated that this is the continuation of a trend. Who's to say whether or not this trend would have continued? I'm also quite skeptical. Although having seen this show, not that I'm a regular
You're not
watcher.
a teenage girl, though.
I'm not a regular watcher, but having seen this
Didn't
show,
go up.
I know why people are terrified of getting pregnant early. I suspect a lot of these girls know that anyways.
But there were
And
people
again,
who
there's
were
a
worried
trend
because,
that's
you know,
already
a lot
established.
of them were on the cover of Us Weekly and OK and all these different weekly magazines.
In glamorous ways.
And the worry was,
Yeah.
you know, there are girls who are going to try and get pregnant to emulate them and become famous themselves. And thank God that the reverse happened. I mean, it shows that girls are smart enough to look at this whole thing and say, wow, you know what? That really is a crappy life. Even though it's compelling, I don't want that life.
Critics of culture have always gotten it wrong in terms of worrying that it's going to somehow feed messages into our brain.
That they're so suggestible.
And we're going to act on them. When in fact, a lot of times people use culture, they use pornography to experience things that they never are going to actually themselves experience. You watch certain reality shows not because you want to be like the guys from Duck Dynasty, because they're kind of weird and you find them interesting, but you don't want to be those guys, right?
It's like your thing with Shiza porn, right?
God bless it. I thought we weren't supposed to talk about this on live television.
That's true.
The fact is, this is a trend line. It's all trending down. Everything that's bad in American life is trending down. Teen pregnancy, the initiation of sex of teenage people,
Number of children
crime,
had by
everything.
Octomom.
And so you could try to isolate this variable and say, this one causes it. It's lead in the paint. That's causing the crime to go down. We don't know.
That's interesting to talk about.
It's interesting to talk about. It's great.
But I don't blame you for being skeptical. I do think that, and by the way, it does no harm to say that, you know, maybe teenage girls who watch MTV saw this and went, ew, gross.
Well, all of this happened in a
Can we just
proliferation
hug instead?
of culture. I mean, we have so much culture, including more crass culture, than we could have thought possible 20 years ago, and yet we still have this red pen going down. So we're cool.
Mon crayon grande et rouge. Oui. The French have us whiskey licked, and the popsicle is going on the block. Intrigued? Yeah, try the topical storm. That's next on The Independent. Hey there, you are tuned to The Independent, and sometimes news happens just too fast. You need a friendly filter to make it all make sense. That's why we have the topical storm. And story number one, you heard Pope Francis liked to get rad, but who knew he liked to ride? His Holiness is selling the papal Harley. Who knew the Pope had a vessel, a vehicle?
And he likes to sort of walk around, take public transportation, wash people's feet, do all kinds of cool stuff.
It's
Except
hard.
for when he's talking about capitalism, pretty cool Pope.
Well, maybe that's why he's selling his Harley, because it's too much a symbol of successful American
He's auctioning it
capitalism.
off and giving the proceeds to a nice
Right.
charity.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
this is
nice.
not the end of the cool offensive. This is the continuation. So good for the Pope.
So
I
good.
guess.
So one in the W column for.
Sure.
I'm not ready to put him on my magazine cover as the man of the year just yet, but
Agreed.
Pretty good Pope.
But you're thawing, which is a nice place to be. Meow. All right, topic number two. Jimmy Kimmel loves to do a segment where celebrities read mean tweets about themselves, and a group called Now This News in D.C. borrowed the idea using politicians. Take a look.
Claire CMC, you really suck a pig's ass.
Paul Ryan has such pretty blue eyes. Sometimes it's easy to forget he's Satan incarnate.
Sean Duffy was a bag on Real World MTV. He's a bag now. I guess we're stopping being polite and starting to get real here.
Damn, you suck.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, that's funny. That makes me so happy. That's good. Some people have great sense of humor, and some are just confounded.
I was going into that hoping that I could hate all of that because it's easier to hate politicians. Did you ever watch Obama when he went on Jimmy Kimmel to, not Jimmy Kimmel, but other
Jay
fella,
Leno?
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon.
Yep.
To slow jam
Slow
the
jam,
news.
yeah.
I just happened to catch that on YouTube the other day. It was infuriating to watch the president be funny on national television because he's the president. He's got a lot of responsibilities, and I don't want to see him yucking it up and that kind of stuff. But that was pretty funny.
That is pretty fun. And you've always had a thing for Paul Ryan's dreamy blue eyes.
That's true.
Yeah, they're still in love with you. The president singing that actually has exactly the same effect on me. I like it a lot. I'm
You wish
sorry
you didn't.
to admit that.
Don't hate yourself for that, Camille.
I'm beating myself up a little
Sexy.
bit. Just a little bit.
Come on now.
That's our second MTV promo in this episode.
That is not intentional, by the way. However, if you are shopping at Amazon and you want to buy a really good book on MTV in the 90s, I know the perfect one. It's called The Kennedy Chronicles. Isn't that weird? Because my name's Kennedy. I guess that's why I like it so much. Topic number three. We know the French dwarf us in wine and liver consumption and mistressing, but who knew those thirsty frogs were such big fans of the whiskey? First, Jim Beam is selling to the Japanese, and now the French drink more whiskey than us? We need to man up and distill our nuts because this is ridiculous. Matt, you like sipping white wine. Is there a men's version?
I dispute this study entirely. From what I know of our frog friends, the only time I've seen people drink whiskey, it's usually when they say Scotch whiskey like that, and that can't
But
be.
isn't Bourbon French?
I suppose so.
Isn't
I think
there's some
little
French
kings.
distilling process? Ugh.
Yeah. No, I think if this is true, it's only true because there are hundreds of thousands of French people who now live in New York and London and are going to a lot of Irish bars.
I will have a Manhattan.
Yeah,
Oui.
that's actually a totally convincing explanation that all of the French people are moving here, they're doing their drinking here, and they're sabotaging us in these statistics.
Okay,
or
you know who else
something
beat us?
like that.
And I want you to put this in your pipe and smoke it because this country has come up repeatedly when we talk about the green rush and legalizing marijuana. Uruguay drinks more whiskey than we do.
Yeah.
What?
Who knew? Yes. They're second on the list. We're third. We barely made the podium. I mean, this is an embarrassment. Whiskey is an American drink. I know you're a fan of Deadwood. Come on now.
This used to be a great country. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, Jersey Shore.
So you
Jersey
guys started
Shore is
acting like
actually.
Republicans.
We can't help it.
Republicans drink more whiskey.
They do?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, that's
Sadly.
right. You have that.
There was a study last
that
week.
graph with bubbles.
Democrat drinking versus Republican drinking. I think
they
I
also
drink like a
drink-
Democrat, sadly.
All of
well,
these studies, this
little
proliferation of
Cabernet.
studies.
Just the umbrellas, I
Sauvignon
mean, I
Blanc.
think it's manly. When you put whipped cream in a drink, that's when you
Oh,
know
put
you've
it.
done it well.
Stalking it, Maraschino. Justin Bieber is a naughty little monkey. Oh, wait, he's a horrible monkey owner because he abandoned his monkey in Germany. This all-around junior douche is at it again, apparently egging his neighbor's house. The police raided his compound and found something very illegal. Stay here and find out what. Welcome back to The Independence. Hi. I believe this Justin Bieber is an a-hole. Little Justin Bieber is being investigated for egging his neighbor's house, allegedly, to the tune of 20 grand. Doesn't take a lot of eggs to do a felonious amount of damage when you live in that fine of a castle. When cops detained him and 7 of his bros, they found drugs. Oh my garden, what happened? David Kaplan joins us. He's an entertainment reporter and he runs the site gossipdavid.com. Welcome, David.
Hi there.
Hi. So Justin Bieber has had quite, I guess it's a couple of years really, since he's been on this spree of horribleness.
Yeah, and in particular, you know, we're talking, he's had a past few months of where he's making his neighbors crazy because this incident stems from the fact that his next door neighbor saying that Justin Bieber was pelting all these eggs at his house, scared this guy.
And there was an eyewitness.
Yeah, his own daughter was there, right? And they even got a partial video of it, and the daughter sounds terrified and frightened. But just within the past few months, people have complained that he goes speeding throughout this gated community in Calabasas outside LA. There's another incident where actually a neighbor says that Justin Bieber spit on this neighbor, but no charges.
And that was investigated by the LA County Sheriff.
Yeah, it was investigated, but charges never happened. So particularly with his neighbors, I mean, they want him out of that gated community. So this is insane, and that's what happened. The cops go there today. 12 cops, by the way, go to Justin Bieber's house just to see, you know, about an egg incident.
Yeah, what's up with that? That sounds a little bit strange to me. First of all, how do you get $20,000 worth of egg damage? Anywhere to anything, unless you're outside the
right?
Sistine Chapel.
Oh, do you know how much those fixtures cost?
I guess so, but like this is, and it's also Calabasas, right? That's kind of like horse house territory.
Right.
I mean, it's not.
You have not lived in Southern California for so long.
True.
Ever since Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey moved to Calabasas,
oh,
it
really?
became fancy.
And the Kardashians now,
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Lardashians live there.
So that's where you go to have a wild time. But that seems a little bit of excessive.
You know,
right?
it is excessive, and it's funny. The LAPD actually even acknowledged that today in a press conference, saying, and it was odd. The cop said, we didn't know what we were to expect, so we needed those cops. But it's like, so they obviously were expecting something, to be honest with you.
They get a report that he's done $20,000 worth of damage, which bumps it up to a felony.
Exactly, above
so the cops
400.
go to his house. They find drugs. How did they get inside and find drugs?
So the police officer today at a press conference said that they got to the house, everyone was sleeping except the security detail. And this happened before 11 a.m. Pacific time. So they go there, everyone is sleeping, including Lil Za, who was his friend, the rapper. And then they said in the room where this rapper was, I know.
Is that Little Twister?
You know, I wish I could remember his real name, but that's how it is. And then they go into the room where just the rapper was, and then that's where the police found the powdery substance.
Did the security detail let the police in?
Yeah, they let them in. And the cops said they're the only ones away.
Warrant?
No. So they went there, and then they see this white powdery substance. Initially, there were reports that it was cocaine or something, but the police have said no, it was Molly, which is a form of ecstasy. They also found Xanax there as well. He was arrested, and then on $20,000 bond,
his friend was arrested.
His friend was
not Bieber.
Yeah, no, not Bieber. Don't worry, believers. Don't worry.
Bieber was detained,
it's all good.
not
It's all
arrested.
good.
There's a difference, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So he was just there, Justin Bieber. He wasn't taken away, and the cops actually kept Justin Bieber in his garage while the cops looked around the house initially for the video surveillance. Long story short, his friend goes to jail. He goes to the police precinct. He's arrested, $20,000 on bail. He's out.
Oh, wow. So you said that there was not a warrant. They asked for permission to conduct the search?
Let me correct. I think there was a warrant to go in. Yeah. So there was.
And there was a warrant because there was this claim of $20,000.
Yeah, because there was this claim. Because what happened is in that jurisdiction.
Does that seem excessive?
It seems totally excessive. So does.
I mean, I don't want to be in the
52
position of defending Justin Bieber, but.
But you know what? Justin Bieber has a history of being, not always being cooperative necessarily with the police. They had all these cars there. Clearly, there was a lot of people at the house. So maybe police, when they go into that sort of situation, they didn't know it's celebrities. But I mean, a lot of people are like, doesn't the LAPD sort of have other crimes going on in LA? I mean, but in the end of the day, they found drugs. So probably, I don't even know if that still warranted it, having 12 people. But it seems really excessive. And also, there were 7 or 8 people other than Justin Bieber in the house.
Haven't the police responded to so many swatting calls, the fake 911 calls?
that you think they'd learn their lesson. Like I said, the police were called for all these other incidents that I outlined, like the spitting incident, when people said that he was driving too fast there. So, I mean, I think they maybe see a pattern that the behavior is becoming a little bit strange, and they don't know what they're going to get into.
No,
It doesn't seem like there's any evidence of that. And if we can extrapolate some bigger lesson from something involving Justin Bieber, it might be that the cops are perhaps subject to the same sort of thing that a lot of common people are, which is, oh, it's a celebrity dude. Let's totally go check out what's happening here, and let's look around his house and see if we can find some stuff. It seems like they
I think cops
probably
are also
knew.
in Southern California annoyed by people like this who tend to get away from the law. But what does this say about the war on drugs? And what is legal and what is illegal?
What's interesting is that he didn't get detained for this. I mean, it's his house, a bunch of people there, weird white powder on the table, and it's his friend who will get any trouble if there's anybody. So the war on drugs is a ticket to bash down your door, which is one of its biggest problems. And lots of terrible things happen.
Do you think they were looking for drugs?
I don't know. I mean, if he's had this history of criminality, kind of like a Lindsay Lohan character, they probably have a very low tolerance. So whenever they hear a complaint, they'll go after him. And it's a different era. I mean, 25 years ago, the Beastie Boys moved to L.A. and they were egging the crap out of everybody.
By the way, they moved to L.A., wrote Paul's Boutique.
With Eggman.
Eggman is one of the great songs.
Because they were just driving around and hucking eggs at people and acting like total jackasses and being kind of funny at the same time. But there was actual crime in L.A. in the 1980s.
Actually, it might have been Check Your Head when they moved to L.A. But still, Eggman is a great song about driving around egging people, and that is certainly from Paul's Boutique. So what's going to happen with Justin Bieber? Is he ever going to see prison for even a day? And don't you think he would just crumble like a bad souffle?
He definitely would crumble like a bad souffle. And of course, today, actually, at the press conference, the police officer said that Justin Bieber, he hasn't been arrested, he hasn't been detained, but, quote, he hasn't been exonerated either, meaning they're still investigating it because they don't want to take heat, either the police, for appearing to be light on celebrities, which is like, a decades-old LAPD issue with them. But listen, he said Justin Bieber's not exonerated yet, so he's not out of the clear. And really quickly, they were going there. I mean, the only reason maybe why they had more than one or two cops is they were going to take apart, and they did take apart, the security system. They were looking for surveillance footage from Justin Bieber's house of him egging, because they believe the egging of his house was caught on the video. So maybe they thought they needed like a team to do it. But listen, that's
the Action News.
Yeah, I know, right? But seriously, and because it's above $400, which is the limit in that jurisdiction, they're saying it's a felony. So yeah, he could.
He's a monster. All right, well, excellent. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks a lot.
Please come back again.
Will do.
And we'll talk about celebrity news because Matt and Camille just love it. They can't get enough. And by the way, coming up next, we have a tragic story also from Southern California. Very sad ending that does not spell justice for one mentally ill man who was beaten to death by police. Did the cops go too far? What could they have done differently? We're going to talk to the man's dad and hear his heartbreaking story. That's on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Independence. Fullerton, California has been at the epicenter of a story about cops, use of force, and how far police should go when dealing with the mentally ill. A quick warning for you, some of the images in the story are very disturbing. Kelly Thomas, he was arrested by Fullerton PD in 2011. He was videotaped being tased and beaten, and he died 5 days later after the incident.
Oh, God, no!
Something is so wrong with that. Here's an image of Kelly Thomas after the beating when he was in the hospital. All right, well, yesterday, two of the cops were exonerated in his death. There's still a number of questions lingering, not just for Fullerton, but for police everywhere. His father, Ron Thomas, joins us from Southern California. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you.
All right, well, this has to be a sad shock for your family. How are you guys doing in the wake of the verdict?
It's very disturbing, of course. We have to ask why. How can they just walk away without even getting excessive force after doing all this to Kelly, who begged them to stop? And at 2 points, he said, look, just arrest me, and they wouldn't do it. Continue with all the taunting. So you really don't understand how 12 people can find them completely not guilty of all charges.
Were you able to talk to any of the jurors after the case and get in their heads a little bit?
No, they haven't surfaced yet. They were ushered out separately, and nobody got to talk to them really. There are questions, of course, I'd like to know. How did you decide this? How did you decide they had no guilt in this at all? And remember, they didn't find them innocent. They just found them not guilty. There's a big difference there. But I'd like to know that.
You have said that you have some hope that the FBI will be launching an investigation. Do you have any kind of indication of what the status of that is right now?
I don't. I've been really, really busy today. So many news conferences and things like that. I haven't had a chance to talk with them. I do know that they have launched the investigation, and hopefully, as in the O.J. Simpson case, there will be, civil rights violation charges filed. That would be something anyway.
This case attracted a lot of national attention because of the videotape and just the horrific, unbelievable quality of it. Have you talked to and commiserated with other families who've been in similar situations?
Yeah, I've been contacted, not only here in Southern California, but around the nation, asking for help and advice on how to get things done, how to get action in their own city councils to listen and things like that. So I've helped. I've been a guest speaker at many universities since this has happened the last 2.5 years, different seminars. I don't charge for anything, of course. I need to help the people, because we, the people, can't put up with this anymore.
And Matt has already spoken to the fact that the national media did catch wind of this story, but the local community there with you actually took a great deal of interest in the story as well, and was very active in trying to help move things forward. How important was that? And second, what can folks who are watching us now and hearing the story and want to get involved do to help?
Well, locally, a lot of folks got together, and in the beginning, a newscaster said, well, who are these people? And I just came out with Kelly's Army. It just came out of my mouth. And from then on, they've been called Kelly's Army. And it's all about, we're just not going to take it anymore. And that's what people need to do, is just get together, go to their city council meetings, speak with the mayors, speak with the district attorneys, and insist that they talk to you. Everybody has a right to talk to a chief of police. And I don't know of one that won't talk to you, or a sheriff, and it's their duty to talk to you.
Yeah, and Fullerton PD, we reached out to them for a comment, and they did not respond to us. But the defense said that, Kelly resisted and that he had a heart condition, and it really wasn't their fault. What part did Kelly's mental illness play in this altercation? And because of that, what do you want other chiefs of police and police departments to know?
Well, Kelly's mental illness played a big part in it. He had a very hard time understanding Ramos's commands, at least complying with them. And it's very evident in the video. He's trying to, then he tells Ramos, well, I can't. Which one do you want? And, Ramos got real nasty with him at that point. But as far as chiefs of police go, sheriffs go, so many have learned from this and are incorporating new training and disciplines for their officers, changing policies and procedures for the better of people. So through my advocacy, an awful lot of that's been done.
All right, and where do you go from here?
Well, we'll see what the FBI is going to do. I do have a civil suit filed. I filed it last year, actually 2012. And that's just part of justice. I couldn't let them just walk away, so I had to file one. But my main concern was, of course, the murder trial. Also, I need to concentrate on my life a little bit now. I gave up everything for Kelly, and rightfully so. And, try and put things back together for myself, and slowly get back together and move on from this, and, see what I'm going to do.
All right, well, thank you for sharing your story, Ron. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, keep us posted. And, frankly, we have to lighten the mood up a little bit around here, because that is such a sad story. And we don't want to leave the show on that note necessarily. It's very important, and I'm glad we talked about it. But coming up next, we're still going to keep it, Camille. Stay with us.
Better than you know it's wrong. So what should I do to finally stay?
Hey there, welcome back to The Independence, where not everything's a musical, but we're always keeping it, Camille. All right, what is trending tonight, and what has caught your eye, Camille Foster?
Well, there are a couple of good things. This has been a good day. In Oklahoma, it looks like a federal judge has actually overturned their constitutional ban on same-sex marriage. This is a good thing. We do have a random person, John Austin, who says Oklahoma is trending for all of the right reasons. I do think this is a good development. Thumbs up to Oklahoma, although I still don't think that we need the state in marriage at all. My own position.
So I can marry a goat in Oklahoma?
You can do whatever you want.
Wonderful.
Kennedy. Freedom is awesome. It's not always pretty, but
not
it's
always
awesome.
free.
Yeah, but you're pretty. But there is other news. That's very important from Kanye and Kim. It appears that this has been a tumultuous 2 days for Kanye West. There's only one Kanye West. Tumultuous day. There was actually some sort of incident inside of a doctor's office. Kanye was called to this doctor's office by his wife-to-be.
Okay, so
by his wife-to-be, who was called apparently a slut and a whore and another nasty word that starts with N. Kanye
by her doctor?
Immediately, no, by a random gentleman in the doctor's office. Kanye came immediately and apparently assaulted this man, punched him in the face. But that is not all. Apparently, Kanye also has a tie to a cryptocurrency that emerged, which was named after him and had his likeness on it. Kanye decided to file a lawsuit against these people, and these people disappeared. Behold the power of Jesus.
Tell the kids what the cryptocurrency was called.
The cryptocurrency was called Coinye West, and Kanye apparently didn't like
Very
that.
Funny.
And as a result, filed a lawsuit.
Is he a Bitcoin fan?
It's not clear. They were reaching out to him. They wanted to have a relationship.
We've reached out to the Kanye West camp, and he has not yet filed a response.
Well, we're
to us
friends.
about
I'll call him later.
Bitcoin.
It's not a big deal. But
When
that's
you
all.
stalk
That's what I've
someone, it
got for
doesn't
you.
make you friends?
We've talked. We dapped each other up. That happened at Kim's birthday. True story. Facts. Only.
And keeping it Camille.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Okay, if someone called your wife the same words that that young person called Kim Kardashian, which, you know, I would have used two of those to describe her.
Yeah, to describe my wife?
No. No, okay, all right. I understand. Well, knowing the president will use and possibly abuse executive order kind of freaks me out. And how did one guy who started off so cool lose his mind? Come on, Obama? Will we never have a commander-in-chief who doesn't get a power boner? Probably not. And it will certainly provide enough fodder to keep this show entertaining. And Bieber, he's just a tool, a rich, lucky tool who'll probably sail through his charmed life. Well, thanks for letting us charm the pants off of you. Yeah, the screen is two-way. For Matt Welch and Camille Foster, I'm Kennedy, wishing you a very good night. Thanks so much for tuning in to The Independence.